that when you have a just government, your nation is then a model for other nations. And I think you cited the Egyptian queen coming to visit King Solomon. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this gets back to what I led with, which is what's God's intention for the nations? Well, he wants them all to be fruitful. And if a nation is fruitful, which Moses was trying to put in place with the first 5 books of the Bible, he was trying to set up the nation of Israel so they would be fruitful. And he says in Deuteronomy 4, I encourage your listeners to go read Deuteronomy 4, the first, I think, 10 verses. At one point he says, listen, if you follow the laws that I'm setting before you this day, the other nations of the world are going to see you, and they're going to come check you out. And they're going to say something like, wow, what an amazing nation that administers justice and for their people and blah, blah, blah. And so that's where we first learn of God's Old Testament evangelistic strategy, which, by the way, is a concept a lot of Christians don't even think about. They just think about the Great Commission. Oh, we're going to evangelize. That's one of the things I like to ask. Well, what was God's evangelistic strategy in the Old Testament? The answer is having a just nation. And people will see that and they will come check you out. So now that I've said that, the next question from your audience ought to be, well, did that ever happen? And the answer is yes, it did. It's recorded in the Old Testament. You alluded to it. The Queen of Sheba, who was a seeker, said she had heard about Solomon. She came a long way. She asked him a bunch of questions. And the text literally says that at one point it says she became overwhelmed. And she says something like, I'm paraphrasing it, how blessed your people are to have a wise king like you to administer justice. And now the question should be, well, yeah, but did she have a conversion experience? And this is what I love about the Bible, because we're not left to wonder. When the Pharisees come to Jesus, full circle, Pharisees come to Jesus. And this is at the point where they say, hey, show us a sign that you're really the Son of God. Now, this is after, he's healed people, all kinds of stuff. And so Jesus says, only a wicked generation asks for a sign. The men of Nineveh will stand up and judge you. Now they're talking about the sign of Jonah. Jonah basically went in and said, turn or burn. And they turned. Right? I mean, and so the men of Nineveh are going to say, we had way less evidence than you did, and you should accept this guy. And then he says, the Queen of the South came a long way and heard the words of Solomon. In other words, the Queen of the South is going to be in the kingdom and is going to look, and she's going to say, listen, you knuckleheads, I traveled for months and it was really expensive and a pain in the butt. I traveled and it was obvious. And yet you guys are asking for a sign. So isn't that fascinating when you piece it together that way? It's just so obvious. So yeah, we the nations that are set up like America was originally set up are a beacon for hope. And I love how, the modern evangelical church likes to think that they're so evangelical and Great Commission minded, yet they are missing out on what was the original evangelistic strategy. When folks are getting off the boat, we should be saying, hey, welcome to America. Let me tell you a little bit about our country and why we're different. They're missing it.